The House and Committee for the Regulatory Reform Bill is resumed. I think the Honourable Leanne Dalziel had the call, and she has just over 4 minutes remaining. But I think I should respond to ejecting someone from the House. I've been informed that this mic has been live the whole time, and whether or not it was, having spent my formative years as a drum major, I'm quite sure that the member heard me. The reason he got ejected was for interjecting when I was on my feet, and he clearly can see even if he cannot hear. But given the complexities that the House has been in, he is able to return to the House at 9 p.m. The Honourable Leanne Dalziel.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to clarify the amount of time that I have to...
4 minutes.
4 minutes. So I haven't lost anything as a result of this? Okay, just checking. I think that what I was saying before this interruption, I was identifying that the Minister himself had spoken probably in a broad brush approach on the whole regulatory reform repeals element of this legislation, which is legislation which he said gets rid of a whole stack of statutes that are holding business back, they're costing business money, and they want to cut through the red tape in order to get things done. Not one single piece of that legislation exists in practice. This is a tidy-up piece of legislation that he's referring to, which just simply removes things from the books that are printed there in technical fact, but have no practical impact at all. So it really isn't a very good argument for the Minister to make, and I'm disappointed, actually, that he would make those assertions in this House, because they really don't make any difference to the sum whole of any of the compliance issues that business might face. I mean, removing a repeal act from legislation might remove some printed words from the statute book, but it doesn't do anything practical to assist the SMEs of this country. And I think, to get up and say in this House that that is what this legislation is all about, when in actual fact it doesn't make any practical difference. I'm all for the tidying up of the legislation, but I just don't think that the Minister should stand in this House on this part of this bill in order to make that point, when I don't think that it's particularly relevant to this particular part, and I also don't think that it's relevant to the debate that we're having, and also to assert that small businesses are going to be better off as a result of the changes that this legislation is making, is just simply an inadequate response from the government. And I don't think that the government has been taking this bill seriously. I think that they could allow this bill to be introduced in February last year. I mean, we've had a general election since then. I was the chair of the Select Committee. We treated this seriously. We actually dealt with it relatively quickly. We reported it back to this House in a timely fashion, and this is what we're treated with. We're down to August 2012. So the government doesn't think that this is very important. And then we get these platitudinous speeches in the House from, what's the name of the guy from Auckland? Sam Lotuinga, saying that it is that this is the best thing since sliced bread and it's a fantastic government that's been able to deliver it, and yet you just cannot for a minute see that this government has shown an ounce of interest in this particular matter, which actually does verify the fact that this isn't a piece of legislation that is going to have a major impact at all. Now, that being said, I am pleased with the approach, but it is the approach that we developed when we were in government. We said you need to have a particular format for regulatory upgrades that enable a number of regulatory measures to be dealt with in a single hit, rather than dealing with them as individual pieces of legislation. And the reason that we went down this track is that we decided that we knew that ministers were going to struggle to get their colleagues to agree that the agricultural compounds Amendment Bill, or whatever it is, the Agricultural Compounds and Veterinary Medicines Act 1997 Amendment Bill, was not going to get the standing it needed.
I will put...
Oh, Mr. Chair.
Are you taking a call?
Yeah,
Claire
Mr.
Curran.
Chair. I'll